Where did this idea that global warming isn't real come from? Who started that, and how did it spread so quickly?
Ooh, I have to cop to something. I don't know if this is the show to do it.
No.
Said a couple things in the late 80s. I was a kid.
No, but
No, we are the only civilized nation in the world with one of our major parties who just completely doesn't believe it's real. I mean, Donald Trump, where's my Donald Trump? The concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. For those of you who might sit out if Bernie Sanders doesn't get the nomination, that's Trump. Hillary Clinton says global change is the most consequential, urgent, sweeping collection of challenges we face as a nation and a world. That's your choice. Yeah. Don't be assholes about it.
You know, one of the things, and I'm curious how you deal with this. You know, I got a chance to work in the White House for a while. In the Pentagon, there's no debate about climate disruption.
Right.
It's baked into every single scenario going forward. Absolutely. Why is it that this particular load of hooey has worked so well on the right?
Well, so I think I've talked about this on this show many times before, and as I've said before, my view is that you have to separate out the problem from the solution, right? So when you look at the last IPCC report, the 5th version, I think, you see a range of possible outcomes and then a price tag on them. There is obviously something happening. I've written this over and over again. You cannot change the environment. You cannot pump things into the environment without changing it in some way. But the relationship between what you do and what might happen is pretty unclear, and the IPCC admits that. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there is more. They
admit that if we stop pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, it wouldn't change?
No, no, no. There is, of course, a relationship between the two. But there is a cost.
That's what we're talking about.
But, yes, but there is a cost to that. There is a cost to that.
But it can't be more than the 14 trillion I just
quoted
to help displace people.
Well, let me finish. There is a cost to that. You have a world now in which 1 billion people, 1.5 billion people over the last 20 years have been brought out of extreme poverty. We've almost eradicated polio. Advanced countries do good things. A lot of people are less poor than they were. There is a cost to doing something about this. So the question is, how do you move forward? Now, from my perspective, I would say the way you move forward that is the best way of doing it without re-impoverishing people is to embrace fracking and to embrace nuclear energy. Nuclear energy especially. Okay, boo.
No, why? When we have the sun.
But we don't have enough technology yet.
Well,
eventually maybe. Eventually maybe.
And by the way, there are no terrorists who live on the sun.
You're talking about admitting that there's global warming and then arguing over what to do about it.
Right. Which
what
must
about
be really
all
annoying,
the people
given
who deny that there's global warming, which means you can't even have the discussion of how to solve it?
Why not? Isn't part of it? Isn't part of the language as well? You know, we say global warming, then there's like snow, and they say, see? Okay.
Right.
And then, so then they say, okay, all right, you're just kind of slow. So we said, okay, then, climate change. And then even people like Rubio say, but the weather always changes, okay?
Sure. Right.
So what if we said climate disruption?
Well, okay, but in fairness, I think this goes both ways too. Whenever anything bad happens, there is a tendency on the left as well to say this must be climate change. The oceanographers are always saying, guys, calm down a little bit, you're misleading people. So yes, of course that happens. People mistake weather for climate. But there is an alarmism here that doesn't do any service to the people on the left.
Don't you think it's slightly different when, after the 19th, 100-year flood in a month, people go, wow, something's bad? Isn't that different than saying nothing's happening?
Alarmism is called for. Extremism in the defense of the planet is no vice.
But at what level? Is lying okay?
Oh, no, not lying.
No. But who's lying?
But one more thing.
There's no lying. Those headlines that were rattled off, they're not just fabricated.
I just got back from the Arctic.
Really?
The ice sheet is melting.
Of course.
And the Pentagon is worried because the Russians and the Chinese are trying to now get all the resources that are now being revealed because the ice sheet is melting. You see it. You watch it.
The one thing I agree with you on, though, one thing I agree with you on is that we need to have effective measures. And we shouldn't do crazy things that cost money, wreck industries with no plan.
Right.
And that was called cap and trade, which came from the right. And we actually accommodated ourselves to that. And then once we adopted a Heritage Foundation proposal, you know what it was called? Socialism. So even when we do what you say, they still attack.
Okay,
well, those are different
to push back for a moment, whenever I mention nuclear, which President Obama also supports, not as the entire solution, but as part of it, people boo, and they mention carbon taxes, which Obama and Hillary and Paul Krugman oppose. There is some common ground here. There is some compromise.
That doesn't mean they're right.
Well,
you know what? Let me tell you.
Actually, they are right because it's regressive. It's a regressive policy. Brookings is correct when it says it falls 5 times more hard on the poor than it does on the rich. There's a reason that there's.
Wait. Let me tell you what Obama's big victory was in the climate area. Peabody Energy, the world's largest coal company, filed for bankruptcy last week. It was worth $20 billion. Now it's worth $38 million. The coal industry has gone from a market cap of $69 billion to $4.8 billion, a 94% drop. In other words, Obama won the war on coal. And of course, it was a war he couldn't even say he was fighting.
Okay, but what
this
replaced
is one
it?
of his greatest achievements.
But what replaced it was fracking. What replaced it was fracking, and the left doesn't like fracking.
No, and they shouldn't. Either should you.
Well, why are we compromised?
Yes.
Why is there this compromise to say, okay, look, you got rid of one bad thing, now you got the other bad thing. We don't want any bad things. I feel like we're all like one TED Talk away from, like, just watch Elon Musk and how much tiny geography we need for all the solar energy in the whole world.
Right. We have this big fusion reactor in the sky.
It's a much slower process than that. The fact is...
It is as long as people are dragging their feet.
And you're talking about cost, right?
This is not a science fiction movie. This is not a science fiction movie.
Right.
Coal has diminished as fracking has increased. People need their lights on. People also don't want their bills to go up, and that hurts poor people as well. It's all right to say that in the long term, technology will save us here, and it probably will, but it doesn't happen like that.
I don't know.
This is a great conversation because the solution, once you admit there's a problem, the solution's hard, but you have to throw these things on the table and figure it out.
Well, it's a great conversation. I have to end.
Oh,
Sorry,
no.
but yeah, I know.